Now, President Donald Trump is heading to China at a time when more than anything he needs a win. 9 years after his lavish first visit to China as U.S. President, Donald Trump is scheduled to head back to Beijing on May 13th to 15th. Now, the 2017 trip produced headline-grabbing business deals worth more than $250 billion, covering everything from energy projects and Boeing aircraft to agriculture products. And these gave Trump the wins he wanted to showcase back home. Now, the atmosphere is quite different this time. Trump will arrive in China amid an escalating crisis in West Asia, a global energy shock, growing internal pressure, and increasing international concern over America's strategic direction. Now, at the center of the problem is Iran. Weeks after military escalation, Washington still lacks a decisive outcome. Iran has not capitulated. Instead, Tehran has openly mocked Trump ahead of the Beijing summit. An advisor to Iran's leadership warned Trump not to assume he would enter Beijing triumphantly. An unresolved war makes the United States appear weaker, and China is watching closely. The Iran war is also exposing vulnerabilities in American power projection. Iran's disruption of the Strait of Hormuz has triggered energy instability worldwide. China is one of Iran's closest trade partners. Trump claims he and President Xi Jinping share the same goal on the crucial shipping lane.
I have a great relationship with President Xi, and I think you can see that with the fact that in Hormuz, they get a big percentage, 40% of their oil from Hormuz. There's been no ships coming in, no nasty ships coming in that we end up in skirmishes with. He'd like to see it get done. He doesn't want to see, I'll tell you what, look, I respect him a lot, and hopefully he respects me.
Now, Beijing holds leverage of its own. A year ago, Trump had predicted that his trade tariffs would bring America's main economic rival to heel. But China used its dominance over rare earth minerals to force Washington into scaling back. At their previous meeting last October at an air base in South Korea, Trump suspended triple-digit tariffs on Chinese goods, and Xi backed away from choking global supplies of rare earths. Since then, Trump has faced countless other battles, legal challenges to his tariffs, capturing Venezuela's leader, threatening to annex fellow NATO member Greenland, and waging a war on Iran that has stoked a global energy crisis. His approval ratings are at a historic low. Well, Trump needs some kind of foreign policy victory, and he would like China to convince Tehran to make a deal with Washington to end the conflict. But Beijing will want something in return, and it could be Taiwan. And Trump on Monday said he will speak to Xi about the future of U.S. arms sales to Taiwan, which is a long source of friction between the two countries. But he appeared to downplay the prospects of China trying to seize the self-governing democracy.
Taiwan, I equate it a little bit to that. If you have the right president, I don't think it'll happen. I think we'll be fine. I have a very good relationship with President Xi. He knows I don't want that to happen.
And most importantly, the summit is going to be a test of contrast between the two leaders. While Trump governs through disruption, improvisation, and political spectacle, Xi operates through patience, institutional control, and long-term strategic planning. And unlike Trump, Xi faces no electoral deadline, and that asymmetry matters because from Beijing's perspective, time may now favor China.
Think about it. The very, very distinguished
And well, from London, we are now being joined by Elizabeth Braw, Senior Fellow, American Enterprise Institute. She is a columnist with Foreign Policy, where she writes on national security and the globalized economy. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast.
Thank you. Just a reminder, I'm with the Atlantic Council.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, we'll make that change. Thank you for informing. All right. I'd like to begin with, of course, this last time the U.S. president had visited China was almost a decade ago, and it was Trump himself. No, Trump several times has hailed his ties with Xi, and we just heard him say that as well, that he has a good relationship, saying they have gotten along very well on everything. What will the meeting look like compared to last time, and what is different this time, which you will be looking out for?
Well, last time Trump was clearly in the ascendance, and the world really was getting used to his kind of politics. Now almost a decade later, we are used to his style of politics, and China or Xi Jinping and his government know how to have a better idea of how to handle Trump. But most significantly, Trump is weakened. He wanted this to be a visit focused on trade, and then, as we all know, the Iran war came along. The visit, once cancelled by the White House, Trump could focus on the war. Now that war has really bogged the US down and indeed the global economy. And Trump needs Xi Jinping's help to try to find a solution to the war. That is a significant disadvantage for him in the trade talks that he wants to conduct with Xi.
Absolutely. And of course, as you mentioned, there are several issues on the table for discussion: the Iran war, the tariffs, and well, Taiwan, and AI as well. Now, when we talk about Taiwan, what Trump had said that, of course, he'll be giving these arms sales to Taiwan, and he'll also speak about this with Xi, and they are somehow they have the same opinion. But we have a reply from China, who now says it opposes U.S. arms sales to Taiwan after President Trump indicates this issue would be discussed during the meeting. What do you make of this right before him reaching Beijing?
Well, the first thing to say is that it's incredibly unfortunate for Taiwan. Taiwan needs the ability to defend itself. It needs international friends and partners, and it needs those partners to come through with their commitments. Unfortunately, America, while you may be willing to export weapons to Taiwan, which, by the way, are not donations, the Taiwanese pay for them, it's clearly not willing to, it's not in a position to do that if China opposes it. Now, the Americans may still insist on exporting those weapons, but at the moment, the US really needs China to solve this crucial issue of the Iran war and the Strait of Hormuz. And unfortunately, from an American perspective, the Iran war is more important than Taiwan right now. And indeed, both the Iran war and US-China trade are more important than weapons sales to Taiwan.
Right, that would be true for the present time. But what will then allies of US like Japan and South Korea will be looking at after this kind of course, response from China? And of course, US's willingness to focus more on Iran than Taiwan at this point.
Now, Taiwan is a bit of a sui generis, geopolitically speaking. It's no secret that China has designs on Taiwan in a way that it does not on Japan or South Korea. But it doesn't bode well for the stability in the region. The status quo of Taiwan has worked well for decades. Now that global stability is deteriorating, China may decide that it can act in a way that wasn't advisable 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. And that is clearly not good news for Japan or South Korea, which are, of course, crucial countries in the region and indeed crucial for the global economy. Important to remember.
Right, absolutely. Of course, we'll be looking at what comes out of these summit, as many people are calling it. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining on the broadcast. Appreciate you.
Thank you.